He smirked when he took my chair. Didn't hesitate, didn't ask, just leaned back, crossed his arms and said, "Why don't you sit over there? This seat's for leadership now." The room laughed, soft, nervous laughs. What they didn't know was that the moment he sat down, he triggered something he couldn't undo. Because 5 minutes later, his phone buzzed, and everything he thought he owned vanished. My name is Thomas Reed. I'm 56, quiet, methodical, the kind of man people mistake for outdated because I don't announce my power, I document it. I married Helen 12 years ago. She had a son from her first marriage, Jason. Smart kid, sharp tongue, always felt like the world owed him interest on a loan he never paid. I never tried to replace his father. I stayed respectful, kept my distance, provided when needed, and all the while I ran the company I built from scratch, Reed Industrial Services. Started with a rented garage, one used truck, and a notebook full of numbers. I missed birthdays, skipped vacations, signed my name on every risk. By the time Jason finished college, the company had grown into a regional operation with steady contracts and loyal employees. I never bragged about it. That silence cost me. Jason joined the company after college, at Helen's request. "Just give him a chance," she said. "He needs structure." So I did. At first he listened, took notes, asked questions. Then listening turned into correcting, correcting turned into interrupting, interrupting turned into overruling. He started calling himself operations lead before anyone gave him the title, sending emails as if decisions were already made. And then came the chair, the boardroom chair, the one at the head of the table, the one I'd sat in for 22 years. One morning I walked into a meeting and saw Jason already there, leaned back, confident, comfortable. I paused. He didn't look up. Finally he said, "Oh, were you planning to sit here?" I smiled and sat somewhere else. That was the moment I taught him he could go further. Respect erodes quietly. Jason began scheduling meetings without me, making promises to clients I hadn't approved, speaking for the company like he owned it. When I questioned him, he said, "This company needs new energy. You're slowing things down. People respond better to my leadership." Then Helen sat me down one evening. She spoke carefully, too carefully. "Jason thinks maybe it's time you stepped back," she said. "He feels the company needs a more modern face." I asked one question, "And what do you think?" She hesitated. That was my answer. The breaking point came during a joint meeting with investors. I walked in, and my nameplate was gone. In its place, Jason N. Reed, President. He was already seated in my chair. When I stopped walking, he glanced up and said, "Let's not waste time. You can grab a seat anywhere." That's when he made his fatal mistake, because instead of arguing, I nodded and sat down. 5 minutes into the meeting, Jason's phone buzzed. He ignored it, then it buzzed again and again. His smile faded. Across the table, one of the investors frowned. "Jason, why was my access just revoked?" Another voice followed. "And why does this contract say invalid signature now?" Jason looked at me, confused. I folded my hands and spoke calmly. "Because 5 minutes ago," I said, "the founder control clause was activated." Silence. "I didn't remove you from the chair. I removed you from authority." Jason shot to his feet. "You can't do that." I met his eyes. I already did. The meeting ended early, very early. By the end of the hour, Jason's company access was locked, his title reverted to assistant, every partner was notified, politely, legally. In the chair? I didn't take it back right away. I waited until he stood up. Then I sat down. Jason moved out 3 days later. Helen was quiet for weeks. The company stabilized. Employees relaxed. Clients returned calls. Not because I embarrassed anyone, but because I reminded them who built the foundation. Months later, Jason sent me a message. Short. I didn't know it was that serious. I replied, "That's the problem. You should've." Here's what people don't tell you. Disrespect isn't loud at first. It starts as comfort, then assumption, then replacement. If you don't guard what you build, someone will sit in it and call it theirs. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're clarity. If someone has ever tried to erase your work, if you've been pushed aside in your own creation, if silence cost you respect,
Speak up. Share this story. Tell yours, because sometimes the fastest regret comes right after someone takes a seat they didn't earn. What would you have done? Let me know in the comments section.